Beggars can't be choosy. And debt slaves can't be picky about presidential choices, national security, food safety, quality of housing, job choices, wages, school safety, quality of education, and entertainment content, or general quality of life. The central bank and China have not received a principal payment for quite some time from the USA, but the USA continues panhandling its credit masters for more credit and more extended easy credit terms. America is officially the first empire and superpower in world history to ever be reduced to a debt-slave nation desperately begging its creditors for mercy that will never be granted. This is what forced military surrender, imposed self-inflicted American austerity, and hidden genocide in America looks like. America has been deceived, tricked, ensnared, entrapped, and enslaved in the first ever global World War III population war. But you can't win the war if you don't know you're in a war. So let's take a peek at the president's direct orders from the nation's primary loan-sharking central bankers and creditor. Drug testing for food stamps might be coming soon. The Trump administration is considering a plan that would allow states to require certain food stamp recipients to undergo drug testing, handing a win to conservatives who've long sought ways to curb the safety net program. The USDA in recent months has been under fire for its controversial plan to replace a portion of millions of food stamp recipients' benefits with a pre-assembled package of shelf-stable goods dubbed America's Harvest Box. The food box plan was tucked into the Trump administration's proposed 2019 budget, which included cutting the SNAP program by $213 billion over the next 10 years. SNAP provides food assistance to roughly 42 million Americans. Trump wants to slash welfare, impose stricter work requirements. President Donald Trump is making a big push to expand work requirements in the nation's social safety net, calling on his administration to propose tougher rules for America's most vulnerable population to benefit from welfare programs. Trump signed the Reducing Poverty in America by Promoting Opportunity and Economic Mobility executive order privately Tuesday, ordering secretaries across the government to review their welfare programs, from food stamps to Medicaid to housing programs, and propose new regulations, like work requirements. The executive order calls on federal agencies to enforce current work requirements, propose additional, stronger requirements, and find savings. In other words, make cuts, and to give states more flexibility to run welfare programs. Already conservative lawmakers, like Representative Jim Jordan, Republican Ohio, have proposed harsher requirements at the federal level, like tightening the window individuals have to find a job from 3 months to 1 month, increasing the number of hours they have to work per month from 80 hours to 100, and extending the requirements to able-bodied adults with dependents. Retail stands to lose $70 billion over next 10 years if food stamp benefits are slashed, and here's who gets hit the worst. 2017 has not been kind to retailers, and if one of the Trump administration's budget cuts takes hold, there will be more pain to come. The current Trump administration budget calls for a $191 billion cut to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly referred to as food stamps, between 2018 and 2028. The Congressional Budget Office said the average food stamp benefit is $252 per month, the lowest level in 5 years as several rounds of cuts began in 2013. If the Trump administration's SNAP budget proposal passes, the monthly amount will fall by 31% to an average $173 a month. CNBC has exclusive estimates to quantify just which retailers will take the biggest hit if food stamp benefits are cut. Retail consultancy AlixPartners estimated retail collectively stands to lose $70.7 billion over the next decade if the proposed cuts take place. For about every dollar of benefit reduction or spending, there's about a 37-cent loss in grocery sales, said Ted Stenger, managing director at AlixPartners. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the government agency that runs the food stamp program, supermarkets and superstores received 81% of the SNAP benefits in 2016, even though that subsector only represents 14% of the total companies authorized to accept food stamps. But that means the group is poised to be the hardest hit. AlixPartners estimated the size of the impact would be about $57.5 billion at supermarkets and superstores over the next 10 years if the budget item passes as proposed. No one retailer redeems more food stamp benefits than Walmart. The discount retailer makes up the largest share of superstore redemptions. In 2013, Walmart disclosed it gets an estimated 18%, but it hasn't given any updated figures. Using that information as a part of its equation, the retail consultancy estimates Walmart would take a $12.7 billion hit to U.S. sales over the next decade. Target sees the second largest food stamp redemption in the superstore and supercenter category, with an estimated $4.8 billion to $5.3 billion sales drag. Target is committed to supporting the communities we serve by accepting SNAP benefits that provide nutritional assistance to those in need. We are watching the budget process and proposals around SNAP funding, knowing it could have an effect on our guests and their families, Target said in a statement. Overall, we anticipate the impact of this proposal on Target's business to be small and significantly lower than industry reports. We'll continue to monitor the budget process closely moving forward. Low-priced grocery store chain Aldi would see the third largest impact, estimated to fall between $4.4 billion and $4.9 billion. Kroger comes in fourth, with an estimated $3.6 billion to $3.9 billion sales hit from proposed SNAP reductions. Stenger said the economic demographics in the areas around retail stores that accept SNAP factor into the estimates, along with the stores that actually accept the food stamp payment cards, commonly referred to as EBT or electronic benefit transfer. About half of Kroger's stores are not enrolled in the program. That's probably because those stores have a very low content of customers who are using the card, Stenger said. In response to the AlixPartners estimates, Kroger spokeswoman Crystal Howard said, "The SNAP program was never intended to fully replace families' grocery bills, but to supplement it. SNAP and WWIII, the Special Supplemental Nutrition for Women, Infants, and Children customers in our stores spend some of their own cash on food. When program spending has been reduced in the past, customers shift to spending more of their cash on food and less cash on other things. We look forward to the legislative process." Kmart has been facing years of hardships when it comes to sales and traffic, as more than 150 of its stores have closed or are closing this year. The proposed food stamp benefit cuts could mean a sales loss of $1.9 billion to $2.2 billion, according to AlixPartners. But the potential reduction in the government's SNAP program will likely have ripple effects beyond those retailers that sell food and drinks. It's just harder to pinpoint and quantify. If you look at food spending as a whole, it's not discretionary. It's necessary. So, you reallocate budget dollars to spend on food if you have to, explains Diana Sheehan, Cantor retail grocery analyst and director of Retail Insights. The SNAP program benefits swelled during the Great Recession as the economy faltered and the unemployment rate surged. The Obama administration began instituting cuts to the program once the economy was in recovery, which began in 2013. But Sheehan pointed out that for the last several years the reduction in benefits has been coupled with deflationary trends in food prices and lower gas prices. So while those receiving the food stamp benefits were getting less, food costs and gas prices to get to the store were lower too, she said. But some expect both those trends could be abating, which could mean the proposed deeper cuts will be more painful to those consumers, Sheehan said. Doug Hermanson, senior economist at Cantor Retail, said its Shopperscape index showed these consumers tend to cut back on small indulgences like eating at restaurants, followed by using more coupons and buying more private label products. The impact takes some time for retailers to manage through, he said. We do see households cut back on everyday expenses when they face these challenges, especially in the short term. It takes a couple quarters for all of these behaviors to have impacts on retailers. Hermanson also noted there can be some benefits too as shoppers switch from one retailer to another to find bigger discounts. In some cases, these shoppers trade into a Walmart or discounter by shopping a supermarket less, he said. Do you see it? Did you miss it? Cutting food assistance does not equal a cut in demand for food. Therefore, grocery stores should not be closing in a population explosion scenario. Food is a necessity. You can't turn hunger off as quickly as you cut food stamps off. And the size of these cuts are significant, not gradual. These cuts represent huge forecasted losses in grocery revenues, which equal a huge forecasted surplus in unsold food. The question this report isn't answering is, where is the demand for food going in order to explain the mass closure of grocery stores? These aren't the first cuts to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. They've been occurring since the 1990s. But there has been no reports of a hunger crisis in America, no food strike protests, no food riots, no food lines, or a massive weight loss in Americans. But there are reports of increasing farm closures, massive reductions in domestic food production, grocery store closures, and growing food deserts. So where are the hungry people who had their food stamps cut? What happened to them? Where did they go? How did they just disappear? Did they stop eating because their food stamps were cut off? Disappearing food stamps and disappearing grocery stores makes it clear what is happening here. If you think horror stories, the rapture, abductions, and missing person mysteries are just something Hollywood creates to entertain us, think again, because you're in one. You've been warned. Trump's budget balloons deficits and cuts social safety net. Meet the new boss? Same as the old boss? President Donald Trump unveiled a $4.4 trillion budget plan Monday that envisions steep cuts to America's social safety net but mounting spending on the military, formally retreating from last year's promises to balance the federal budget. He lied. The president's spending outline for the first time acknowledges that the Republican tax overhaul passed last year would add billions to the deficit and not pay for itself, as Trump and his Republican allies asserted. They lied again. If enacted as proposed, though no presidential budget ever is, the plan would establish an era of $1 trillion plus yearly deficits. The open embrace of red ink is a remarkable public reversal for Trump and his party, which spent years objecting to President Barack Obama's increased spending during the depths of the Great Recession. Rhetoric aside, however, Trump's pattern is in line with past Republican presidents who have overseen spikes in deficits as they simultaneously increased military spending and cut taxes. Never-ending debt slavery. "We're going to have the strongest military we've ever had, by far," Trump said in an Oval Office appearance Monday. "In this budget we took care of the military like it's never been taken care of before." What military? What soldiers? Where are they? Trump's budget revived his calls for big cuts to domestic programs that benefit the poor and middle class, such as food stamps, housing subsidies and student loans. Retirement benefits would remain mostly untouched by Trump's plan, as he has pledged, though Medicare providers would absorb about $500 billion in cuts, a nearly 6% reduction. Some beneficiaries in Social Security's disability program would have to re-enter the workforce under proposed changes to eligibility rules. Aging retired seniors will be forced back into work till you die labor force. The White House used Monday's event to promote its long-awaited plan to increase funding for infrastructure. The plan would put up $200 billion in federal money over the next 10 years in hopes of leveraging a total of $1.5 trillion in infrastructure spending, relying on state and local governments and the private sector to contribute the bulk of the funding. But after his aides talked up that plan over the weekend, Trump suggested that his infrastructure proposal wasn't a big deal for him. No talk of paying off debt. Still no talk of building factories and plants. We cannot export infrastructure. All told, the new budget sees accumulating deficits of $7.2 trillion over the coming decade. With America's dismal fiscal performance so far, plan for the worse. Jesse Jackson calls to expand Kroger boycott over its shuttering of stores in minority neighborhoods. Jesse Jackson should fight another fight, not Kroger. Jesus feeds 5,000 plus women and children. What if he asked for a boycott instead? To Jesse Jackson, his followers, and his supporters, here's your wake-up call. You can't eat civil rights. There's no such thing as a boycott, march, and protest farm. Guess which uncles are going to be late with dinner in the coming years? Uncle Sam and Uncle Jim Crow. Guess which ideals we won't be able to boil, bake, or deep fry? Freedom, liberty, and justice.